Welcome back to California Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance. We are joined today by G. Rick Marshall. He is a nominee for the Board of Equalization District Number 3, which includes what areas, sir?
All of Ventura County, most of LA County, and Chino Hills in San Bernardino County.
What's most interesting about your candidacy is you became a nominee through a non-traditional, novel, new event. How did it happen?
Well, the California voters back in 2010 passed Proposition 14. And in that amendment, they changed the way we do our elections.
Right.
And so now everybody's on the ballot in the primary.
Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, everyone runs against everyone.
Everybody. And then the top two vote getters go into November and they run it off and the final person is elected. Well, part of that thing, which I didn't realize until a friend came to me, is that in a situation where the person on the ballot is running unopposed, as my opponent was during the primary, write-in candidates have the ability to make it to the top two. And when he told me, I said, "Oh, you can't be serious. The write-in candidate, no way." He says, "Even if you're the only one and you vote for yourself, you're in."
Literally, if you had gotten one vote and no one else got a write-in vote and there was only one other candidate, you'd be in the top two.
I'd be in the top two. Unfortunately, I had 4 competitors for the write-in.
Oh, is that true?
But I worked the social media hard,
Right.
and I had some independent expenditure, and I came out with 1,849 votes.
That did it.
That did it, and my next closest competitor was 198.
So from the write-in community, you were number one.
I'm the number one write-in, yes.
What do you make of that system? It is what it is?
It is what it is.
Right.
You go with the flow. I benefited from it this
Right.
time, and we now have an opportunity to have a choice in the 3rd District Board of Equalization.
So let's talk about that. Talk to us about why you chose to run for Board of Equalization, regardless of how you got there. What made you decide to take this leap?
2 things. California is overtaxed. We have the highest income tax in the nation, and I think we're number 4 in the highest sales tax.
But can a member of the Board of Equalization affect that? Because that really is a legislative matter.
I agree, it's a legislative matter, but the great thing about the Board of Equalization is we have discretion in setting the taxable value of items we purchase. Most of the board collects about $56 billion a year in tax revenue, about a third of our state's tax revenue.
Okay.
Most of that from sales tax. What the Board of Equalization can do is they can set the value of the taxable value, and then the tax is applied. We can't change the tax applied, but we can change the taxable value. Give you an example. We all carry cell phones. My carrier, Sprint, came to me last December and says, "Hey, we want to sell you the new iPhone 5C. I said, "Great, how much?" 99 cents. When I got the bill, it wasn't 99 cents, it was $60.99 because the Board of Equalization rule is you pay on the full manufacturer suggested retail price of $600. I want to change that rule to we pay on the 99 cents.
The Board of E can do that?
The Board of Equalization
outside of the legislature?
Outside the legislature. It may be unpopular, but it only takes 3 votes.
It may be very popular, actually. I don't know if it'll be popular with the controller who wants more money or the
Right.
governor who wants more revenue.
Right.
I mean, you know what I'm getting at.
Well, I understand what you're getting at,
Yeah.
but I want to say that I also want to be a voice on that board for the idea that we can have more tax revenue by lowering taxes. Art Laffer showed us how to do in the 80s. And I know this is go ahead.
I guess, the whole notion of supply side economics, whether that works is a tricky conversation. What's not tricky, though, is, and Democrats and Republicans have both discussed this, lowering taxes on everything, but spreading out the categories of which you can tax.
Right.
So that means taxing services from doctors, from lawyers, from accountants. What do you think of that? Because that actually is an idea that does have some bipartisan support.
It does have some bipartisan support. I haven't given to that because we're not used to taxing services. And the doctors would have to fill out those complicated Board of Equalization tax returns. And working in the medical industry, doctors, they are harried and they really don't want to do any more. We're asking them to key things in to the computer system right now, and they fight that. So
And you work at UCI Medical Center, so you know from what you speak.
I know from what I speak. So I'm not for putting more burdens on it. I think we can simplify the tax code. I think we can reduce the burdens, the compliance burdens. I think we need to use technology better so that things can be done without so much human intervention. We have an industrial age tax code. I want to bring it into the information age.
I don't think you're alone in that. I think a lot of folks would believe that. But I do think getting that through the legislature would be a massive undertaking. Now, the blessing of being a member of the Board of Equalization is you're only one of 4.
Right.
So you do represent a quarter of the state.
I-
So you do have a voice. I mean, you're not one of 80 or one of 40, you're one of 4. So you would have a bully pulpit for which to express your views on that issue. But look, a lot of people have been talking about this. How are you going to take that to the next level?
Well, I've got to get on programs like yours and talk about it.
You're kind.
But the idea is I have not heard any Board of Equalization member in the Los Angeles County area talking about that. Mentioning my opponent, I think he enjoys tax increases. He supported Proposition 30 that raised our taxes this last time.
But a lot of folks did as well. I
Yeah,
mean,
a
mostly-
majority did. I'll have to agree with
I
you.
mean, over 55% were in favor of Prop 30. Candidly, I was shocked.
Yeah.
I thought it probably would pass, but 55%, I mean, in the scheme of elections, that's a landslide.
Yeah, I agree.
And so, there's no question that Californians, they are willing to tax themselves if they see a benefit from it.
Right, but there's a point of diminishing returns. And one of the things that happens is because we're a high tax state, we have high compliance costs, we have businesses leaving our state or elsewhere.
It's interesting you mentioned that because I do think there's a kind of conflagration between high tax and high regulation. I don't think many people would disagree that California is a high regulation state.
It is.
That is hard to deny. On the tax side, though, I do think there is some disagreement on whether we are the high tax state. If you really, from what I've learned, dig into the weeds, we had a lot of tax credits, a lot of R&D credits, and you kind of average it all out. From what I've read, we're really kind of in the middle when it comes to taxing. Regulation,
It's there. Well, let me tell you, that's a problem I have with the taxation system because what we've got is because we're so high tax, everybody goes and seeks their carve out of the tax system so they can get the taxes down where they need to be. What I would like to see is a simplification of the tax code to where it's a low tax, it's broad-based, I agree, and we wouldn't have all this rent seeking going on.
That being said, when you consider the reason taxes were formed 100 years ago, let's say, there were a couple. One was to raise revenue. The other was to try to shape behavior. Now that one could argue is Big Brother, but just take me, work with me.
Okay.
If you simplify, there isn't as much ability for the government to try to shape behavior for the benefit of society. Mortgage deduction, for example. That is a very clear social policy. We want to encourage home ownership. We could get rid of that. We could get rid of it.
That would be very unpopular. We
Right.
could get rid of it.
But that's a simplification.
That is a simplification. But part of the whole thing, again, we have the mortgage industry rent seeking, and so we're getting all these carve outs to try to improve home ownership. I think if we brought the price of our homes, if they were cut in half tomorrow, you would see a big difference in home sales. And the way to cut them in half is to reduce the rent seeking, to reduce the taxes, to bring the regulation down. We have a ton of regulation.
I wonder whether we will see regulatory reform. We have heard Democratic Governor Jerry Brown say, it's his mission to reform CEQA. Too many damn regulations, he said,
Right.
not my words. And so when you have a Democratic governor saying this, you have Republicans in the legislature agreeing, can we get there?
I think we can, but the voters of California are going to have to speak. And we've got to have candidates standing up and saying, look, this is what I want to do. Elect me. We can make the change. Because the other side is not doing that.
That election will be held on November 4th.
Right.
His name is G. Rick Marshall. He is a nominee for Board of Equalization. I'm Brad Pomerance. It's California Edition.